Crown Jewel 2024, it occurred. Middle of the day on the weekend. Got used to that 1 o'clock time spot. I appreciate WWE tonight giving us 7 matches. It felt like the sweet spot tonight. We also got a big announcement today with a WWE Hall of Famer announcing his retirement match. I'm going to tell you guys about that. We're going to talk about that today. But we're mostly going to talk about Crown Jewel, where it landed. They always go out. They always try to make it feel like the WrestleMania of the Middle East. Give it a little extra treatment. We get some extra treatment in the form of champions versus champions being the theme of this Crown Jewel. And even creating a Crown Jewel Championship. I'm still not sure all the way how that will work. Will it be defended at Crown Jewel every year? Or will a new title just be created with whoever the champions are? And it'll just be head-to-head, face-to-face, brand versus brand champion for the men and women's. But we're going to discuss and break into all that. I'm your host, Bryan, the Hype Ballard, back at it again here on Tap Out Talk. Let's get in. We start out, we get the original Bloodline versus the new Bloodline. Open up the Crown Jewel pay-per-view, or PLE, with a 6-man tag team match. The new Bloodline is out first. And then we get a same entrance for Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso. But we get Jey Uso getting his own entrance. I like the WWE's move on this. It tells us, while Jimmy may still be connected to Roman, Jey is not all the way on the same page and has moved on to become a star of his own. After breaking away from the Bloodline, after having his feud with Roman, after having his feud with his brother Jimmy, he's just here to help a little bit. But then he'll go back off to his own brand on Raw. I like the way they did that. Little subtle nod there with the separate entrance. Separate brands, separate entrances. Jimmy and Jey Uso show that there's still a legit tag team in the ring in this one. And the WWE, and they also have a team up to double team Jacob Fatu. Jey Uso shows he's not exactly on the same page with Roman Reigns, though. And it hurts their team ultimately, causing Roman to really take the brunt end of some punishment. But Roman recovers, and it leaves him and Solo Sikoa and him to fight it out. Chief versus Chief, face to face in this one. In the end, it is Solo Sikoa who delivers 2 Samoan spikes to Roman Reigns for the pinfall. Bloodline wins. I should say the new Bloodline wins. 16-minute mark in the matchup. But we're not done yet. Good opening little matchup. Fun 6-man tag. Typical Bloodline style. And in Bloodline style, it's time for some honorary style. We do get a post-match Bloodline assault on Reigns. And stomps him down. Gets Jimmy in the corner. Tama Tonga and Fatu grab Reigns. They clear the commentary table. They're prepping Roman Reigns to go through the table. Jey makes the save, but is overwhelmed by the group. Tama gets Jey in the ring, beats him down. There's a chair there. Solo grabs it and puts Jey in the corner. They wrap the chair around his neck. How are we going to even the odds? Well, if you see Monday Night Raw, Sami Zayn appears in Saudi Arabia, and he comes down. He stares off with Solo Sikoa, who talks to him. Sami turns and looks at Jey, thinking about it. And I kept getting vibes of Royal Rumble about a year ago or so, where it was the Bloodline and Roman that handcuffed Sami with the rose petals for messing up everything. What will Sami do? Sami looks at Jey, looks back at Solo. Solo's pleading with him. He's also pleading with the crowd to not get Sami riled up. Sami goes in to hug Solo, and he gets a suplex on him. Throws him over. The Bloodline then gets in and gets the beatdown. But the Usos are up, and they're ready to fight as well. And Roman's is now back in, and the Blue Bloodline gets out, and they run up the ramp. Except for Solo, who is surrounded by all 4 men in all 4 corners. Ultimately, Sami and Reigns both charge. Solo ducks. Sami Zayn hits Roman Reigns accidentally. Jimmy isn't happy about that, and he yells at Sammy. Jay separates them, and Sammy is getting ready to leave. So ultimately, we do get the mishap between Sammy and Roman that will set up the coming weeks of television. You guys know where this is going. This is going to Bloodline battle in War Games at Survivor Series. I think we've been waiting for this build for a long time. And the Honorary Uce filling out the original Bloodline roster to go into War Games. It makes sense. The stipulation makes way too much sense for this one. So we're going to get a good match out of that in November. Let's move ahead. We get next up the Women's Tag Team Championship. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair, the champions. Kairi Sane and Io Sky versus Lash Legend, Jakara Jackson, and also versus Chelsea Green and Piper Niven in a fatal 4-way match. Anybody can tag anybody in this one. We get a lot of high spots and moments in the matchup, and Chelsea Green adds some comic relief for good measure, keeping it a little entertaining and light. Bianca Belair really showcasing her abilities in this matchup after fighting back against Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. Cargill blocks it unprettier, and Piper accidentally splashes, then lands on Chelsea, allowing the champions to retain. The match attempted to highlight all of the women involved, but ultimately, it only really benefited 4 women in this matchup. It benefited the champions, and it benefited Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. The other girls in the match just kind of felt like an afterthought to me in this one. On that note, Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair do win at the 12-minute mark of this one. I will say, what we're doing with the tag team champions, keep them on Belair and Jade Cargill. Let them feud with those titles on eventually. If you take the titles off of them, the titles become essentially worthless again, and I don't know who I ask would be the one that would gain any benefit from the tag team championships. But let's move on ahead. I digress. Guys, hit that like button if you did like Crown Jewel. If you didn't, that's fine too. Tell me why down in the comments. Let's get into the next matchup, which is Seth Rollins versus Bronson Reed. This was supposed to be a bit of a grudge match. Bronson Reed coming off of a feud with with Braun Strowman. Seth Rollins coming back from injury against Bronson Reed here. Seth charges up the ramp, attacking Bronson Reed. They brawl all over the arena. They eventually get in the ring, and they officially begin their match some minutes in. Back and forth matchup, trading movesets really in this one, but Seth Rollins lands a curb stomp, and he hits one into the ring steps, and another atomic curb stomp you can call from the top rope for the pinfall. 1, 2, and a 3. The move that breaks Braun Breason wide open, and blood is coming from his forehead. 12-minute mark for this matchup. Reed is in the ring on his feet as Seth is leaving, and they two stare at each other. He looks shocked standing in the ring. Reed says he wants more. Rollins says Reed knows where to find him and that he should come for him, and the same exact thing will happen. I call this the finish of a mini feud, or the in-betweener of something more. I somehow wonder if we will get a Braun Strowman and maybe somebody else in a Monsters Brawl-like matchup. The way all these guys have been fighting backstage, creating a lot of fun chaos. Bronson Reed throwing fans at opponents, pulling them out of the crowd, breaking cars, breaking out of different vehicles. I feel like this isn't the complete end, but maybe the beginning of something a little bit more in a Monster Brawl type style. But let's move ahead. We got our first champion versus champion match. Will this concept work? We got Nia Jax versus Liv Morgan from each respective brands for the first ever Women's Crown Jewel Championship. Liv Morgan attacks Nia Jax straight head-to-head, but she quickly learns that it isn't the way to battle the Andre the Giant of the women's division, and Liv gets beat down for attempting such a foolish thing. Tiffany Stratton midway comes down through the matchup, ready for a cash-in possibly, but no, who's kidding? She's not going to do that. This gives Morgan, though, a chance to recover, and Raquel Rodriguez and Daddy Dom come and help Liv gain the advantage. This allows Liv to hit the Oblivion and win by pinfall. 1, 2, and a 3 to become the first ever Crown Jewel Women's Champion. About an 8-minute matchup here. I don't know, it felt like it was just getting started and then it was ready to end. I felt like it got shrunk down. And for this being a champion versus champion match, the only difference I seen was one was a power wrestler and one was win by any means type wrestler. But it felt more like there was just so much outside that, and these two really didn't have a reason to be feuding with each other than Crown Jewel. No cash in from Tiffany Stratton, which pushes this angle down the road again. And while cash-ins are important for a storyline, I would personally like to see a variety in her attempts. For example, maybe she could cash in. Maybe she could win with a cash in, but to find that the contract was missing from the briefcase, which then would allow a mystery of where and who took the contract and left the Tiffy briefcase. Just an idea, randomly throwing things out there, but you guys get the idea. Tiffany running down, attempting to cash in, not cashing in, kicking the can. You can only do that so much. I think I've seen this now 11 times, I think, this year. And after a while, it just loses its flavor in that seasoning. So I would like to see more with this briefcase. I feel like the WWE is going to... I'd like to think they have something planned for here, but I just don't know where or what or when. Let's move ahead to where, what, and when, and everywhere. Everywhere around the arena, that is. We get Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens, or do we? Owens attacks Orton before the bell with a chair, hitting him all across the leg, across the back. He stomps on Orton on the outside. We clear an announcer table, fist to the head, powerbomb, but Orton gets free, and they trade shots again. These guys just in a feud that has been building, and they actually did a good job with just a brawl for it all over the arena and all over the outside. We actually don't ever really get a match here. The referee grabs a chair at one point. Owens with a stunner to the ref. Officials are now out there. Owens comes in. A chair as pandemonium goes wild. Orton with the kick. And he grabs the chair and nails Owens with it. The match has been waved off, and the Owens decks an official. Orton drops Owens with the Arabic announcer table and then rolls Owens in and follows. Orton grabs the chair, goes for swinging. Ultimately, this one's over. Orton does get an RKO to Pierce. They brawl around through the crowd for some more. And we get an elbow from the very top on Orton through a table by Owens. Really nice spot to end the chaos, but no match, no result. This was actually well done. It's been a while since we have seen just a brawl around the arena. Anarchy in the arena, if you will. But we get a brawl match, but no real match, just a fight. Two guys looking for a fight. What's going to contain this fight, I ask you? Could it be War Games with the Bloodline? That's one option. A steel cage structure where they can't wait to get their hands on each other. I think a 5-on-5 Bloodline rules match in a War Game cell would actually make some sense here to add these two to it. Or we could get a little bit more. We could get that and then get a one-on-one payoff on a Monday Night Raw. Something in December even. There is a story to tell here, and I liked how they did this as the starting point for these guys and did it in a unique way that allowed us to be interested in what happens next. What happens next is, you guys want other podcasts, check out the fansofprowrestling.com. There's plenty of content over there. Ted's Takes, Wrestling Fans Insight, the list goes on. Check them all out. Let's get into the next matchup. That is the United States Championship. LA Knight, Carmelo Hayes and Andrade, who seem to have an issues with each other in the coming weeks. Andrade and Carmelo start out beating each other up heavily as LA Knight just stands out of the way as a smart champion would, allowing them to beat the crap out of each other. Eventually, all three men involved getting near falls on another. LA Knight hits the BTE on both men to retain. 1, 2, 3. LA Knight, 9-minute mark in this one. Fun, quick, triple threat match. Andrade and Carmelo Hayes telling the story that they'll have to put their differences aside in order to try to gain the prestigious United States Championship. I want to ask though, where is LA Knight? He feels like the odd man out in this feud. I didn't mind this for the short term. However, I do ask, what is going to be the next big thing for LA Knight? He's talented enough to make it work. We just got to have the right dance partner. I felt like when he fought Logan Paul, I thought that added a little sizzle to the steak. I feel like this is a good stopping point feud. But what's next? I'd like to see him move on to something, and I don't know what that would be. But it's got to be something important. And speaking of important, we've got the champion versus champion men's match. First ever Crown Jewel champion being crowned here. 23 minutes these guys went for in this matchup, showcasing their skills. Cody Rhodes, your undisputed champion, versus Gunther, your world champion from Raw. Gunther ultimately wearing down Cody Rhodes with a brawling, technical grapple style game. Beginning in the moments of the match, and Gunther applies a sleeper holds to Rhodes in this one. But as Cody's about to fade and Gunther has the upper hand, Cody rolls up Gunther, getting the 1, the 2, and the 3. Cody is named the Crown Jewel champion, as Gunther shows that his lack of experience to the level of Cody came up just short. As he came out, the announcers were talking about winning the King of the Ring, winning the World Championship, talking about how Gunther has had an amazing year so far, selling the idea that he's had a good year, he's on the right path, and I would agree. We get Triple H out, along with Liv Morgan, celebrating the Crown Jewel Championships hand in hand, the men and the women's, and the show is off the air. And we gotta ask, was Crown Jewel special anymore? Let's get into our final thoughts. And here are the final thoughts. Crown Jewel might have ran out of some tricks, but they wanted it to feel special with the championships, and that's what the WWE was attempting to do. I will say, 7 matches on a pay-per-view or PLE card, that's the sweet spot. I always felt like 4 matches was too short, and 12 matches is very long, even though I enjoyed in some formats. But 7 to 8 matches, I always said, is the sweet spot. And I feel like WWE did the little extra here to give us just a little bit more, and it was well met. And overall, I didn't get bored watching the show. I mean, I kind of was not into the overall champion versus champion vibe. I was a little bit more worried about protecting their respective brands and champions. But I do believe the right men and the right women won tonight, setting up whatever that next step is for them. Sami Zayn sets up War Games with the Bloodline, making his entrance in the very beginning. Somehow, Bloodline keeps going on. And here we are, going from the year of 2020 till 2024, almost 2025, 5 years later, and we still are getting Bloodline-elemented storylines. Orton versus Owens could add into that Bloodline, as I mentioned earlier, with a War Games match. But it felt like a good setup overall, with the brawl being well done, leading into something more between these two superstars. Cody Rhodes' experience shined and was the difference over Gunther, not making either guy look weak, having a nice 20-minute bout, showing why they're champions of champions. And speaking of champions, let's talk about Hall of Famers and former champions. Bill Goldberg making his announcement today and revealed on ESPN that he'll have a retirement match in the WWE. They're still putting things together, but I wonder who would be worth Big Bill Goldberg's final match as a retirement match. Who could that be? I personally do think Gunther might be a nice matchup for him, as they have alluded, or maybe there's something more that Bill wants. And then if you guys want more, I have plenty of other content, but I'm going to go ahead and head out for now. Thank you guys, each and everything, for everything you do. And it's not goodbye. It's just game over. I'm out.